Wait. Stop the clock. Did Joe McCann just pull the ultimate Uno reverse card on the entire internet? For over a month, we've been dragging this man through the mud, calling him every name in the book from Zanzibar villain to a straight-up fugitive. But now that he's back in the States, Joe isn't just speaking, he's screaming. And his target? It's not the police, it's not the trolls. It's Ashlee's own family. Is it possible that the tragedy we've been mourning has a secret price tag attached to it? Joe is out here dropping bombshells, claiming that while we were busy lighting candles, some people were busy counting coins. He's alleging a massive, behind-the-scenes GoFundMe scheme that would make even the most seasoned scammers blush. We're talking about exploitation, missing donations, and a narrative that might have been bought and paid for. I know what you're thinking. Is Joe just trying to distract us from those 11 missing hours and that suspiciously absent engagement ring? Or have we been played by a grieving family who realize that tragedy equals trending? Why is the GoFundMe still live? Where is the $60,000 really going? And why does Joe claim he's being silenced by the very people asking for your money? Grab your tea, grab your snacks, and lock your doors, because we are about to dismantle the most messy scandal of 2026. This isn't just about a vacation gone wrong anymore. It's about a digital paper trail that leads straight to a shocking family secret. Is Joe McCann a monster? Or is he the only one telling the truth in a room full of paid actors? Let's get into it. So we are diving straight into the deep end of the pool where the water is murky, and the sharks are wearing expensive suits. To understand the gravity of what Joe McCann is currently dropping on the internet, we have to look at the players involved and why this entire situation smells like a manufactured crisis. For weeks, Joe has been the public enemy number one. He was the man who took a beautiful, vibrant woman to a remote paradise, only for her to never return. The narrative was simple and easy for the internet to swallow because it fit every trope we have ever seen in true crime. We had the wealthy white fiancé, the gorgeous black woman, a luxury resort, and a sudden violent end. It was the perfect storm for a viral outrage campaign, and social media did not disappoint. But while the world was busy building a digital gallows for Joe, something else was happening in the background. While the tears were flowing on TikTok, the digital cash registers were ringing. We are talking about a scandal that transcends a simple argument in a hotel room. Joe is now claiming that the very people who were begging for the public sympathy were also quietly building a financial empire off the back of their daughter's final breath. This is where the story shifts from a tragic loss to a calculated corporate-style maneuver. Joe is hinting that the Robinson family didn't just lose a daughter, they found a gold mine. And according to his camp, they have been mining it with professional precision since the moment that FaceTime call ended. The controversy surrounding Joe McCann isn't new though. This is a man who has always moved in circles that raise eyebrows. He's been described as a man with deep pockets and even deeper secrets. Before this Zanzibar nightmare, Joe was already a figure of intense scrutiny. People pointed to his past, his business dealings, and his penchant for high-stakes lifestyle choices. When Ashlee entered the picture, it seemed like a match made in influencer heaven, but the cracks were there from the start. The internet has a long memory, and it remembered every whisper about Joe's temper and his alleged history of being a controller. That reputation is exactly why everyone was so ready to believe he was the villain in this story, without seeing a single shred of physical evidence. However, being a jerk or a difficult partner doesn't automatically make you a criminal, and Joe is banking on that distinction now. He's leaning into his bad boy persona to say that yes, he's not perfect, but he's also not the one currently sitting on a pile of donated cash. The suspense here is thick enough to cut with a knife because Joe isn't just denying the allegations anymore. He is pivoting. He is turning the spotlight away from the hotel room in Zanzibar and pointing it directly at the GoFundMe page that has been the lifeblood of the family's public campaign. He is asking the questions that no one dared to ask while the funeral flowers were still fresh. The emphatic nature of his defense is what's really shaking the table. He isn't whispering this in private. He is using the biggest media mouthpieces in the world to scream it. He's making us look at the timeline again, but this time he's not focusing on the 11 hours he was silent. He's focusing on the 11 minutes it took for the first donation link to go live. It's a brutal, nasty, and highly controversial tactic, but Joe knows that in the court of public opinion, the best defense is a devastating offense. He is framing the Robinsons not as grieving parents, but as opportunistic directors of a tragedy that they are now selling to the highest bidder. Think about the past incidents that have colored our view of this family. We saw the emotional videos, the heartbreaking interviews, and the calls for justice. We felt their pain. But Joe is now suggesting that this pain was weaponized. He's referencing the way the family handled the media, the way they shut him out, and the way they allegedly refused to speak to him unless it was through a lawyer or a camera lens. It's a narrative flip that is making people very uncomfortable, because it suggests that our empathy might have been exploited. If Joe is right, we aren't just looking at a tragic death. We are looking at a high-stakes financial scam disguised as a search for the truth. The atmosphere is becoming increasingly toxic as more details emerge about Joe's time in Tanzania. While the internet was saying he was locked up in a dark cell, he was actually sitting in luxury hotels, cooperating with a police force that he allegedly had in his pocket. The rumors of corruption in Zanzibar are legendary, and the internet was convinced Joe was buying his freedom. But now Joe is saying that the only reason he stayed there so long was to make sure every I was dotted and every T was crossed so that when he came back, he could dismantle the family's claims with surgical precision. He's painting himself as the man who stayed behind to do the dirty work while the family flew home to start the fundraising circuit. This is where the Section 1 analysis really gets intense because we have to ask ourselves, who do we believe when everyone has a motive to lie? Joe has every reason to distract us from his own behavior, but the family has every reason to keep the pressure on Joe to ensure the donations keep flowing. It's a vicious cycle of accusation and counter-accusation. Joe's past reputation for being a shark in business is now being applied to his personal life. He's looking at the GoFundMe as a business merger that went south, and he's treating the Robinson family like a rival firm that is trying to hostile take over his reputation. The phrases being used in the underground forums and the leaked insider reports are becoming more emphatic by the hour. People are talking about the Zanzibar hustle and the grieving grifters. It's nasty, it's controversial, and it's exactly the kind of chaos that Joe thrives in. He's not playing by the rules of engagement anymore. He's not waiting for a court of law. He's using the sarcasm of his legal team to mock the family's travel expenses and investigation costs. He's asking why they need $50,000 to find answers that the Tanzanian police have already provided in a free report. The build-up to this exposure has been nothing short of cinematic. We've had the slow drip of information, the crying mothers on evening news, and the silent, brooding fiancé in the background. But the silence is over. Joe McCann has arrived back in the land of the free, and he's brought a suitcase full of receipts that he claims will prove the GoFundMe was never about Ashlee's body. It was about the family's bank account. He's positioning this as a scandal of epic proportions, a betrayal of the public's trust that goes deeper than anyone could have imagined. As we look closer at the scandal, we see that it's not just about the money but about the power of the narrative. The Robinsons controlled the story for weeks. They were the ones telling us about the argument, the separate rooms, and the missing ring. They built a case against Joe in the absence of any other information. Joe is now claiming that they did this intentionally to create a villain. Because every good fundraiser needs a villain. If Ashlee just had a tragic mental health episode, the money doesn't flow. But if she was lived by a wealthy, shady fiancé, then the world opens its pockets. This brings us to a very dark realization. If Joe is telling the truth, then the entire internet has been a silent partner in a financial scheme. We've been the ones sharing the links, the ones tagging the news outlets, and the ones demanding Joe's head on a platter. Joe is laughing at us. He's using his sarcasm to point out how easily we were manipulated by a few well-timed tears and a tragic headline. He's calling us out for our selective outrage, asking why we didn't question the family's spending habits or their sudden rise in social media fame. The level of suspense right now is at an all-time high because we are waiting for the first set of leaked messages Joe has been teasing. He claims he has texts from the family that show their true intentions. Texts that talk about targets and reach and engagement, instead of mourning and loss. If these messages are real, they will be the final nail in the coffin of the family's reputation. But if they are fake, it will be the final proof that Joe McCann is a master of deception who will stop at nothing to save himself. Every time we think we have a handle on this case, another layer is peeled back to reveal something even more disgusting. We are witnessing a war of attrition where the casualties are the truth and the memory of Ashlee herself. She has become a pawn in a game between a man who might be a killer and a family who might be scammers. It's a Hollywood script playing out in real time, and we are all tuned in for the next episode of this nightmare. Joe's strategy is clear. Make the family look so bad that no one cares what he did in that hotel room. It's a classic misdirection. If you can't make yourself look like a saint, make everyone else look like a devil. And right now, he is painting the Robinsons as the most devious devils in the game. He's using his platform to question everything from the cost of the casket to the necessity of their private investigators. He is turning the tragedy into a balance sheet, and the numbers, according to him, just don't add up. As we move into the breakdown of the actual investigative findings that Joe is allegedly holding onto, the tension is reaching a boiling point. The internet is already starting to flip. You can see it in the comment sections. People are starting to ask, wait, what did happen to that money? The seeds of doubt have been planted, and Joe is watering them with every TMZ interview and lawyer-backed statement. The first part of this saga was the fall of Joe McCann. The second part, which is starting right now, is the calculated dismantling of the Robinson family legacy. We are moving from the what happened to the who's getting paid. And the answer is going to leave everyone speechless as the details of the alleged scheme start to leak out into the public eye. The transition from mere suspicion to a full-blown investigation into the family's finances began the moment Joe McCann's legal team started leaking what they call the Zanzibar receipts. If you thought the first chapter was messy, buckle up, because the breakdown of this alleged scheme is where things turn from a tragedy into a high-stakes financial thriller. According to anonymous insiders close to the defense, Joe's team has reportedly uncovered a paper trail that suggests the GoFundMe wasn't just a spontaneous reaction to grief, but a pre-planned digital campaign. These sources claim that digital marketing consultants were consulted within 48 hours of the tragedy to optimize the justice for Ashlee narrative. It sounds insane, right? But in the world of viral storytelling, every click has a dollar sign attached to it, and Joe is betting that the public will be disgusted by the math. The leaked reports, which Joe's camp is slowly feeding to exclusive outlets, describe a level of lavish spending that contradicts the image of a family struggling to bring their daughter home. One anonymous source, allegedly a former associate of the family's legal circle, claims that while the public was hitting the donate button to cover travel expenses, certain members of the inner circle were seen browsing high-end real estate and luxury vehicle catalogs. Now, we haven't seen the bank statements yet, but the rumor mill is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. The accusation is that the GoFundMe became a slush fund, a blank check provided by an unsuspecting public who thought they were funding a private investigator, when they were actually funding a lifestyle upgrade. The detail in these allegations is what makes them so spicy and so controversial. Joe's side is painting a picture of grief cationing, where the family allegedly stayed in 5-star accommodations in Tanzania while claiming they were stuck and destitute due to the legal hurdles. They are talking about private chefs, high-end security details that cost $10,000 a day, and consultation fees paid to family friends that look a lot like money laundering. The sarcasm in Joe's latest press release was dripping like acid when he asked if investigative research now includes spa treatments and designer luggage. He is framing this as the ultimate abuse of power, the power of a victim's narrative used to bleed the pockets of well-meaning strangers. To make matters even crazier, quotes from imaginary, or let's say unverified sources are flooding the comment sections of every major news outlet. One supposed whistleblower claiming to be a hotel staffer in Zanzibar posted a viral thread, alleging that the family was seen celebrating the reach of their social media posts. They weren't crying over the loss, the post read. They were cheering because the story hit the front page of the international news. Whether this is a paid bot or a real witness, the damage to the family's reputation is massive. The public reaction has shifted from God bless them to wait a minute, let me see those tax returns. The internet is a fickle beast, and Joe McCann knows exactly how to poke it to make it turn on its previous darlings. Public reactions are now a chaotic war zone. You have the legacy defenders, who think Joe is a manipulative demon trying to smear a grieving mother, but then you have the audit squad. These are the internet detectives who are literally going through the GoFundMe terms of service and demanding a line-item breakdown of every cent spent. They are pointing out the missing engagement ring again, but this time they are asking if the family is the one who actually has it. Joe is alleging that the ring was secured by the family early on, and then reported as missing to add another layer of villainy to his name. If true, that is a level of tactical deception that would make a spy novelist jealous. The investigative findings being teased by Joe's team also hint at a media kickback scheme. They are suggesting that certain exclusive interviews given by the family weren't just for awareness, but were part of a paid participation deal with tabloid syndicates. We are talking about six-figure sums allegedly being moved through offshore accounts to keep the "Joe is the killer" headline alive. Joe's sarcasm reached a new peak when he suggested that the family should win an Oscar for Best Performance in a Fundraising Role. It's a brutal, low-blow strategy, but it's working. People who were once 100% Team Family are now starting to look at those crying videos through a lens of skepticism. Think about the sheer audacity of what Joe is proposing. He is saying that the entire world was recruited into a massive multi-level marketing scheme where the product was justice, and the investors were the taxpayers and donors. He's describing a world where corruption doesn't just happen in the dark alleys of Zanzibar, but in the bright, polished living rooms of American suburbs. The detail about anonymous sources is key here, because it allows Joe to spread these rumors without taking direct legal responsibility yet. He is letting the internet do the dirty work of exposing the family, while he sits back and watches his own villain stock drop. The abuse of power narrative is particularly effective because it taps into everyone's fear of being scammed. We live in an era of fake news and digital grifters, and Joe is playing on that paranoia. He's asking, why hasn't the family released the private investigator's report? Why is there no record of the travel expenses they claimed were so expensive? He's pointing out that the Tanzanian government actually covers many of the costs associated with international deaths in high-profile cases to avoid a tourism crisis. So, if the government paid for the transport, where did the $60,000 go? This is the question that is currently burning a hole in the family's public image. The exaggerated detail in Joe's claims includes descriptions of strategy meetings held in the family's basement, where they allegedly mapped out which influencers to target for shout-outs. He's claiming they have a PR war room that is more sophisticated than most political campaigns. This makes the family look less like grieving parents and more like a corporate entity protecting its bottom line. The sarcasm used by the narrator in these exposure videos is sharp, mocking the theatrical nature of the family's public appearances. It's a total character assassination designed to make the public feel stupid for ever caring in the first place. And let's talk about the corruption aspect. Joe is hinting that the family has connections in local government that allowed them to expedite certain processes, while blocking Joe's side from getting a fair hearing. He is painting himself as the victim of a small-town conspiracy, expanded to a global scale. He's claiming that the family used their victim status to bully hotel staff and Tanzanian officials into giving statements that fit their narrative. It's a complete reversal of the wealthy man buys the law story. Now it's the grieving family bullies the law. It's controversial, it's nasty, and it's keeping millions of viewers glued to their screens. The public reactions are becoming increasingly polarized, and that's exactly what Joe wants. Conflict generates views, and views generate a shift in the cultural conversation. One viral tweet with 10,000 likes asked, "Is Joe McCann the new Johnny Depp? Is he being Amber Heard-ed by a family that knows how to play the media?" This kind of comparison is gold for Joe's PR team. It frames him as the misunderstood survivor of a smear campaign. The humor being used to mock the family's GoFundMe updates is dark and relentless, with memes appearing that show the family's investigation SUV being a brand new luxury Range Rover. As we dig deeper into these leaked reports, we find claims of conflict of interest everywhere. Joe is alleging that the lawyers the family hired are actually close family friends who are taking a massive percentage of the GoFundMe donations as legal fees. If this is true, it means that the public isn't just helping a family. They are paying the salary of a legal team that is dedicated to destroying Joe. It's a self-sustaining cycle of litigation and donation. The more they sue Joe, the more they can ask for money. The more they ask for money, the more they can sue Joe. It's a brilliant, if demonic, financial loop. Joe's sarcasm about the missing ring has now turned into a full-on challenge. He has reportedly offered a $50,000 reward for anyone who can find the ring, hinting that it's already sitting in a safe deposit box owned by the family. He is mocking their lack of transparency, pointing out that for a family that wants the truth, they seem very hesitant to share their own financial records. This creates a suspenseful, show me the receipts moment that is dominating the current news cycle. Every time the family posts a new update about missing Ashlee, the comments are flooded with, "Where's the money, Yolanda?" It's a total shift in the power dynamic. The investigative findings also suggest that there were internal disputes within the family about how to split the money. Joe is teasing leaked audio, where family members are allegedly arguing over who gets what share of the media deals. While we haven't heard the audio yet, the mere threat of it is keeping the family on the defensive. They are being forced to spend their time denying financial rumors instead of pushing for the investigation into Ashlee's death. Joe has successfully moved the goalposts. The game is no longer "Did Joe do it?" The game is now, "Are the Robinsons lying to us?" As the Section 2 breakdown reaches its peak, the narrative is at its most explosive. We are looking at a family that might have turned their greatest nightmare into their biggest payday. Joe McCann is standing in the middle of this chaos, pointing his finger and laughing at the absurdity of it all. He is framing the entire Justice for Ashlee movement as a boutique industry, designed to keep him in legal limbo while the bank accounts grow. The detail of the alleged corruption is so dense and the sarcasm so biting that it's impossible to look away. We are moving from the scandal breakdown into the fallout, where the legal consequences of this alleged financial scheme are about to hit like a sledgehammer, and the transition into that chaos is where the true terror begins for everyone involved. The transition from social media drama to actual legal warfare is where the fantasy of the perfect victim officially dies and the cold reality of the courtroom begins. We are now entering the fallout phase, and let me tell you, it is looking absolutely catastrophic for anyone who thought they could play the internet like a fiddle without facing the music. Joe McCann isn't just back in the country. He is back with a vengeance and a legal team that looks like it was recruited from the front lines of a corporate war. They aren't just filing papers. They are dropping tactical nukes on the Robinson family's credibility. We are talking about potential federal investigations into wire fraud, tax evasion, and the misuse of charitable funds that could see this entire Justice for Ashlee campaign dismantled by the authorities in record time. The fallout started the moment Joe's lawyers filed a formal request for a full accounting of the GoFundMe proceeds. This wasn't just a polite ask. It was a shot across the bow that has sent the family's legal camp into a total tailspin. If Joe can prove that even $1 of that money was used for something other than what was advertised to the public, we are looking at a massive fraud case. The phrases being tossed around in legal circles right now include unjust enrichment and charitable solicitation fraud. Imagine the irony. The family that spent weeks calling for Joe's arrest might be the ones facing a grand jury investigation into where $60,000 of public money vanished. The tension is building because the government doesn't take kindly to people using tragic deaths as a crowdfunding loophole to bypass income taxes. Joe is reportedly pushing for the IRS to launch a full-scale probe into the family's sudden change in financial status. He's pointing to the luxury travel, the high-end consultations, and the lack of a paper trail for the so-called private investigators that were supposed to be solving the case. If the feds step in, this isn't just a YouTube scandal anymore. It's a federal felony. The suspense is reaching a fever pitch as we wait to see if the GoFundMe platform itself will freeze the funds and launch its own internal audit. But the legal drama is only half the story. The public backlash is the real scorched earth event. We are seeing a wave of donor regret that is sweeping through the comment sections like a wildfire. People who gave their hard-earned money are now feeling like they were characters in a scripted reality show. There are reports of mass refund requests being filed with GoFundMe, with donors citing misleading information and deceptive practices. Joe's sarcasm is at an all-time high as he watches the very people who wanted to put him in jail start to turn their pitchforks toward the family's front door. He's calling it the Great Awakening, mocking the blind sheep who finally realized they were funding a lifestyle instead of a legacy. And what about the hypothetical resignations? We are hearing whispers that the high-profile legal team representing the Robinsons is looking for an exit strategy. No reputable firm wants to be attached to a client that is being accused of financial impropriety on a global scale. If their own lawyers jump ship, it's game over for the family's public defense. Joe is already teasing that he has a list of cooperating witnesses from within the family's own circle who are ready to flip and tell the truth about the GoFundMe scheme just to save their own skins. The anticipation of these insider leaks is keeping the internet in a state of constant anxiety. The fallout is also hitting the Justice for Ashlee movement itself. Real activists are starting to distance themselves from the case, fearing that the scandal will tarnish the reputation of legitimate causes. This is the ultimate consequence of the alleged greed. It doesn't just hurt the family. It hurts every future family that actually needs help. Joe is leaning into this, using his platform to defend the integrity of true activism, while simultaneously burning the Robinsons to the ground. It's a masterclass in PR manipulation, turning a man who was once a murder suspect into a champion of financial transparency. We are also seeing hints of a potential probe into the media deals we discussed earlier. If it's discovered that the family accepted under-the-table payments for exclusive access while simultaneously claiming to be broke on GoFundMe, that is a direct violation of multiple consumer protection laws. Joe is suggesting that a major sting operation is already underway to uncover the hidden contracts between the family and the tabloid press. The phrases pay-to-play and checkbook journalism are being shouted from the rooftops. This isn't just a mess. It's a radioactive explosion that is poisoning everything it touches. The financial crisis within the family's camp is reportedly getting so bad that they are allegedly trying to sell merchandise to cover their mounting legal bills. Joe's sarcasm reached a new level of cruelty when he suggested they start selling GoFundMe auditor t-shirts. The humor is dark, the stakes are astronomical, and the fallout is far from over. Every single move the family makes now is being scrutinized by thousands of amateur detectives who are looking for the next gotcha moment. The power has completely shifted, and the family is now living in the very glass house they tried to stone Joe with. Think about the consequences of a hypothetical probe into the Zanzibar hotel's records. If Joe's team can prove that the family's investigation was a sham because they already had the answers, the fraud becomes undeniable. Joe is banking on the fact that the truth is a lot cheaper than the lies the family was selling. He is positioning himself as the truth teller, the man who was silenced by a grief cartel, but is now speaking his truth with the power of 1,000 subpoenas. The tension in the air is thick with the scent of upcoming arrests and public apologies that will probably come too late to save anyone's reputation. The scandal of the century tag isn't just hyperbole anymore. It's a living, breathing monster that is devouring everyone involved. We are looking at a situation where there are no winners, only degrees of losing. If Joe is vindicated, he's still the man who lost his fiancée in a hotel room during a fight. If the family is exposed, they are the parents who sold their daughter's soul for a few thousand followers and a bigger bank account. The fallout is a tragedy within a tragedy, a never-ending cycle of calculated attempts and shifting blame that has turned a woman's death into a circus. As we reach the final stages of this exposure, we have to look at the public backlash in its purest form. It's not just about the money anymore. It's about the betrayal of trust. The internet feels like a jilted lover, and it's looking for blood. The calls for accountability are louder than the calls for justice ever were. Joe McCann is sitting at the center of this storm, the eye of the hurricane, watching as the world he was once banished from turns its fury on his accusers. It's a chilling reminder that in the age of the internet, the only thing more dangerous than a villain is a victim who gets caught lying. The anticipation for the final legal filing is driving the views to record-breaking heights. Everyone wants to know, will there be handcuffs? Will there be a televised trial for fraud? Will Joe McCann get the last laugh in a story that began with a scream in a Zanzibar resort? The fallout is the final act of this play, and the curtain is about to drop on a scene of total devastation. The shocking truth isn't what we thought it was. It's much more expensive and much more pathetic. The final consequences will likely be a series of lawsuits that will drag on for years, ensuring that Ashlee's name is never mentioned without a footnote about a GoFundMe scandal. That is the real tragedy here. The memory of a human being has been buried under a mountain of receipts, leaks, and anonymous sources. Joe McCann has successfully rewritten the narrative, but at what cost? He has turned the investigation into a financial audit, and the public has followed him down that rabbit hole without a second thought. We are left with a landscape of ruins. A ruined reputation for Joe, a ruined legacy for Ashlee, and a ruined future for a family that might have just wanted a way to cope but got lost in the lure of the viral payday. The fallout is a warning to every influencer and activist out there. The internet gives, but it also takes back with interest. And right now, the interest on the Robinson family's scheme is coming due, and the collectors are at the door. This brings us to the end of our deep dive into the messiest, most controversial, and most expensive scandal of the year. We've looked at the hook, the breakdown, and the fallout, and the picture it paints is one of absolute corruption and digital manipulation. But as always, the final judgment belongs to you. We've laid out the leaked reports and the investigative findings, and now the question is, who is the real villain of Zanzibar? Is Joe McCann the mastermind of a cover-up? Or is he the victim of a family-led financial hit job? Did the Robinsons lose their way in the pursuit of justice? Or was it always about the GoFundMe scheme behind the scenes? The evidence of lavish spending and abuse of power is hard to ignore, but so is the 11-hour gap and the missing ring. It's a puzzle with too many pieces and no clear picture, and that's exactly how the people in power want to keep it. The drama is high, the stakes are higher, and the truth is currently being sold to the highest bidder on TMZ. We are living in a world where tragedy is a commodity, and Ashlee Jenae's story is the latest product on the shelf. As the legal probes begin and the public backlash intensifies, remember one thing. In a war of narratives, the first casualty is always the person who can't speak for themselves anymore. So chat, I've given you the receipts, the rumors, and the absolute chaos of the fallout. Now I need you to do the heavy lifting. Was Joe genuinely accused falsely by an internet mob looking for a scapegoat? Or is this GoFundMe scheme his most calculated attempt yet to distract us from a dark truth? Are the parents exploiting their daughter? Or are they being framed by a man with unlimited resources and a grudge? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't hold back. I want to see the justice for Ashlee versus Audit the Family debate in full force. Was the $64,000 worth it, or is the reputation of this family gone forever? Hit that like button if you think Joe McCann is playing a dangerous game, and subscribe for the next update because we are tracking the federal investigators as we speak. The truth is coming, and it's going to be louder than any FaceTime call. See you in the next one, where we find out if the missing ring finally turns up in a safe deposit box. Stay skeptical, stay loud, and never stop asking, where did the money go? So we have laid it all out, the high-end hotels, the missing jewelry, and a fundraiser that looks more like a fortune than a funeral fund. Now the ball is in your court and the pressure is on. This story is changing by the second, and I need to know exactly where you stand in this digital war. Do you believe Joe McCann is a master manipulator who is using his wealth to smear a grieving family? Or are we witnessing the greatest internet hustle of 2026? Is that GoFundMe a legitimate lifeline for parents in pain? Or is it a calculated scheme designed to turn a daughter's final moments into a viral payday? Don't just sit there. I want to see your theories in the comments right now. If you think the Robinsons need to drop the receipts and open their books for an audit, let me hear it. If you think Joe is a villain who took the ring and now wants to take their reputation, sound off below. The internet never forgets, and it certainly doesn't stop digging until every dollar is accounted for. Are we looking at a tragic loss or a high-stakes scam? Your comment could be the one that blows this case wide open, so don't hold back. Make sure you hit that like button if you're tired of being played by viral narratives and subscribe for the next part of this investigation. We are tracking the federal probes and the leaked messages as we speak, and you do not want to miss what we find next. This is the messy truth that nobody else is brave enough to tell. Is it justice? Or is it just business? Let's talk about it in the comments. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next update in the Ashlee Jenae saga, because this rabbit hole goes way deeper than Zanzibar.